This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you been thinking about therapy? Have you been trying to get in to see a therapist? Have you found that a lot of therapists that you've been recommended to have either closed books or they've got a really long waiting list? Sometimes months. If you're lucky, it's a couple of weeks. Now, what if there was an alternative that gave you quicker access and at your convenience? So when starting to think about looking for a therapist, try BetterHelp. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient and flexible to your schedule needs. So just fill out the brief questionnaire and get matched with a registered therapist. You can also switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So get moving with therapy and visit BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/Gunter today will give you 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Gunter, GUNTER.
Listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspire Change with Gunter. I'm your host. And for those of you who are subscribed to the podcast, you know what the mission is. But for those of you who aren't, who are new, and apparently according to the stats, there's quite a few starting to come on board in 2024 interested in what I'm doing and the people that I'm bringing on board. Now, it's my pleasure to bring on board someone special because I've just finished reading her book and I really enjoyed it. And she goes in with the mission because fundamentally my mission is to help good men become great. But, I don't want to confine it there. I want to make it more broad. I mean, after all, we can stick with gender, but we can move up the chain and go, look, we're all human beings. Shouldn't that be all of our mission in a sense? So let me introduce you to this wonderful person, Elizabeth Jane, and you can find her on elizabethjane.com.au. Elizabeth in the book has got some poetry, which is wonderful and very touching, but also some great art that goes with the book. And one of the things that I liked about the book was the way that it was laid out. So it wasn't just dry content. It had this beautiful mix, this flow between poetry, art, and then the narrative, and including, and this is one of the things that I found, particularly good, is tips, right? So it's not just about blah, 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 but it's also then about what you can do in a very practical way. So, Elizabeth Jane, welcome to Inspire Change. And you appear to be a fantastic role model for the whole idea about inspiring change.
Oh, well, thank you, Gunter, for your lovely introduction. I'm just here to do what I can because what I went through really brought me down. So I just decided I was going to start writing about things that brought me up. And because I think everyone, wants to feel good. We want to feel good about ourselves, and we want to enjoy life. And so I thought, well, just, there's lots of books being written on this sort of topic, and I thought, no, I'm just going to cut through the crap and just write just handy hints on feeling good fast. Maybe I shouldn't put the title of the book that. Handy hints to feel good fast.
Well, actually, while we're on the topic of the title of the book, my autocorrect kept going to something else, but the title of your book is Free and First, Unlocking Your Ultimate Life. So, you know, it took me a little bit to sort of get into the book and then go, yes, this is what this title's really about. And so it just kept resonating. Don't know why I've got an autocorrect that doesn't go along with the story, but anyway, there it goes. Technology can have a mind of its own at times. So, Elizabeth, tell me a bit about what inspired your change, or how did you get to this point in your life where you felt that you really needed to do something different?
Okay. Well, in a nutshell, because um, I was rocking along pretty well. I thought, I had 4 healthy children, happy marriage, a picket fence, so it was all sort of like it was all sort of rocking along really well. And if everyone said, "Oh, you're meeting your needs," I said, "Gosh, yeah, I'm meeting my needs." And then all of a sudden, it got really rocky, and then without much warning, I was divorcing, and it came as a shock, and I went through all the emotions because it had been a long marriage. We'd been 25 years together.
Wow.
And I had unknowingly lost myself in my roles, as a mother and as a wife. And when the kids were entering their 20s, so they flew out the coop, and then my husband had flown out the coop, and then I was sort of scratching my head and going, well, what happens now? And it was quite scary. It was traumatic. I went through all the emotions. And so I thought, the vodka bottle was only good for a while, Gunter.
Right. Okay.
Yes. You can party, and you can go, oh, no, that's fine. 50% of people get divorced. I'll be fine, and just party on and just continue. But then I realized that wasn't the long-term fix. And I started sort of journaling about what was working and what wasn't. And organically, the book grew from there. So the divorce, I have my ex to thank for waking me up about tools to how to feel good, because that's all it basically is. It's like we can be profuse with what we say, but I think it's just everyone wants to feel good, and the book came about to help people gracefully step through challenges, whether they're health challenges, relationship, or even financial. You can apply the tools in the book to any trauma we're going through, which there's too much trauma at the moment.
Well, it's interesting the way that you're describing it, because I mean, I've been a psychologist and a therapist for a long time, and in the beginning, I'd get referrals from doctors describing people as going through a nervous breakdown. But what you're describing is essentially what ended up to be like a breakthrough.
Yes. I have so much gratitude for. I hope my ex is not listening to this. I have so much gratitude for my husband for booting me out because he woke me up.
Too deeply embedded in the comfort zone, Elizabeth.
Yes, I think like I'd really just lost track of what mattered to me, and like I think we grow up and sometimes we've got a voice in our head saying, oh no, it's selfish to put yourself first. Oh, I'm too busy to have fun. But it's actually when we have downtime that we can connect with what's important for us, and like even if it's only 10 minutes a day. I know everyone's busy, we're all working hard, or but that 10 minutes a day to work out what you need and to pursue that is so important.
Absolutely. I just had a thought around all of that, and that is that, one of the things that I find trying to get, especially men, in sort of the right space to reflect. I ask them often what they feel, and they struggle with it. But my experience working with women, the question that would pull a lot of women up would be, "What do you think you need?" Um, and they would often sort of literally sort of freeze in that moment. Is that something that you can relate to, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think exactly. I mean, I thought all my needs were being met, but they weren't my needs. They were actually the needs of my family. It's just sort of like it's just a sort of slight difference here.
Yeah,
Um,
just
you
a
know,
little.
yeah, even my email, Gunter, was my name and family.com.
All
and
right.
family. And I thought that really just shows you can really just get lost with, the ones in your lives. And yeah, so the minute I started to have time for me, which was it really, and playing around with painting, doing something fun doesn't the less serious the better. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter
I
what it is.
agree. Absolutely, I completely agree with
10,
that.
10 minutes a day, if you can play like a child. I think
Mm,
I've just crossed out on my notes. Downtime is so
mm,
important. Stop time, but I've
mm.
crossed out downtime and I've said playtime. Gunter,
Yeah, excellent.
playtime.
Yeah,
10
I'm with
minutes
you.
for playtime.
Yep,
We
yep,
we all need to set aside playtime
yeah,
to be the circus clown, to get the chalk out and do a bit of hopscotch on the pavement, or
yeah,
skip down the street. Who cares what people think? I mean, if we're not causing havoc, who it that's the moment we can step into our child spirit,
yeah,
and be a child.
yeah.
That's when we can actually start um, lifting our mood, which is
Yeah,
what
it's
it's
also,
all about.
yeah, and it's also one of the places where we're most likely to draw creativity from, because we're not constrained in that space by others' expectations, or what society necessarily approves of.
Yes, yes. Well, actually, when we're creative, like what doesn't really matter what that looks like. I mean,
Mm.
it's importantly sort of you tend to be kept in the present,
Yeah,
and that's when the magic happens. So it doesn't really matter if you choose whatever you choose, washing windows, it doesn't
yeah,
matter. Washing the car, it
yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah,
But
yeah,
anything to keep you out of your mind,
yeah,
as I sort of say, I think I don't know if I refer to it in my book, but the monkey mind, which is sort
yeah,
of like going into the
yeah,
past, the
yeah,
shaming and the blaming and the
yeah,
regretting, which
yeah.
just makes you feel worse,
Yuck. Mm.
or going into the future, which is your fantasy future. You can fatalize and fear as much as you like, but it's all sort of made up until it actually happens.
Yeah,
Um, so the more, it doesn't really matter what you do, even if it's just like I'm going to count my steps to the local, well, I shouldn't say the local bar because because
one drink's okay.
one will counteract the other, won't that? You do
Well,
your
yes,
meditation on the way to the bar. Well,
you just blown it with a couple of vodkas.
you've blown it with a couple of beers or a couple of vodkas. But like everything, it's following what you feel like you want to do. But most people don't. I feel that we don't stop. If
Yeah,
we're busy with work, we're busy whatever we're doing.
yeah,
We how do we feel what we need? How do
yeah.
we can't? We're sort of numbed. I think
What?
that's a good starting point, just to
Yeah,
stop. Mm.
yeah. But a lot of that, I think, starts right from childhood. I mean, I've got two adult children, and they've got children, and I watch the sort of socialization, and it's about doing, 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 doing. Unfortunately, sort of my kids, they grew up actually being able to take some time and reflect and, read and foster their relationship with themselves. But a lot, my experience when I'm working with people, and these days it's mostly with boys and men, is the concept doesn't seem to sit. It's always about what do I do next? Even when I ask them, what do you want out of therapy? Is they ask me for stuff to do to help them feel better.
Yeah. Well, I think I can remember when I started on this, sort of journey, and I'd come out of a session and I go, but what can I do? I need to do more. And it was quite funny, Gunter, because I sort of went into a deep meditation and I said, my inner child. And he said, yes, what's your inner child want? What's your inner child? Well, my inner child was wielding a massive stop sign. So twice the size of my inner child, saying you just need to stop. And I don't think we give ourselves permission to stop because we don't feel worthy if we sit by our pool. Like we sort of think, oh, we're just being a waste of space. We're wasting our time. How productive is just sitting around? That's being lazy, but it's actually assisting us to feel better. And sometimes we just need downtime.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
not feel guilty.
But you see, one of the, I think, and maybe this is your experience as well, is that quite often in the beginning when we stop and we get in touch, or at least try to get in touch with ourselves, with that essential part of us, we actually get really anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And, the next step is, hang on a minute, I can't sit with this now, I've got to do something. So, the next part of they either get up and abandon the attempt to be mindful or meditate by, going to the gym. I work with boys and men, as I said, so they're usually off to the gym or, kick a ball around or, do something. Everything other than sit and stay with themselves in their relationship with themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it definitely can be really, really uncomfortable when feelings come up that are not that popular, let's say, like it's all right to be in joy and, all the popular ones. But and I must say here that I'm not a health professional, and if any of your listeners need to seek medical help, then they should do that. This is just purely from my experience. But I think if we can just accept, as I say in my book, if those, what happens is we tend to contain those feelings within us, I feel, like anger and sadness. And when they're contained within our bodies, within our physical being, that's when it can cause, disease, unease in the shoulders, you feel, everyone knows that awful feeling when you get tight shoulders and you go, oh God, my back's gone out. My hips not feeling that good. But I really believe it's, if we can just acknowledge these feelings and then let them go, like, oh, I've got a grudge with my neighbor because they're, but if you harbor that grudge, well, it's doing more damage to you than them. So I think as we can let go of those heavy emotions, well, then we feel a lot lighter and we're better off for it. So even if
absolutely.
even if we have to fake it till you make it, in terms of like with forgiveness, oh no, there's no way I can forgive that neighbor. But the reality is everyone's on a different level of, let's say, understanding, or a different vibe. And so some are at uni and some are at toddler school, and you can't reason with a toddler, as you know. And you're not going to be able to reason with everyone what's right and wrong. The best thing is just to be the best you can be. And once we start looking after our internal stuff, well, then the external tends to change. It's quite magic. Once we start standing up for what we need and setting boundaries, there's not so much grumpiness around. I'm writing a children's book, so we can let the grumpiness go.
Yeah, Mr. Grumpy. Did you ever have those books like Miss Bossy? And my daughter was born with the Miss Bossy label.
Yes.
And, it was a fortunate thing. People used to sort of go, oh, she's a bit of a handful. And my comment was, well, no, she's got spirit, she's not a pushover.
Yes.
Now, it creates some challenges sometimes as a parent. But, he was a girl that grew into a woman that was able to be in touch with who she is and what she's about. And I'm always, yes, my wife and I did a wonderful job in that sense, but part of that's her. But there's a large part of this that was really her.
Well, I think parents are instrumental, though. I really, on that note, I really emphasize that if kids were brought up, little Johnny, you've got a little Johnny, and little Johnny comes along and they ask mum and dad, and then so the parents ask Johnny, who does Johnny love most in the world? And Johnny goes, mummy and daddy. And then if the parents went, no, sorry, you don't love mum and dad the most in the world, you love Johnny the most in the world. It would just change. I think people would be stepping up. It would be a different world if if the self-worth of every person on this planet was a bit more up there. Let's say.
There's a couple of things that what you're saying has sparked off in my head. Firstly, that connection between emotion and physical health. Well, there's actually a physiological reason behind that, because when we internalize, especially the sort of unwanted or negative emotions, and I'm not keen with calling anger negative, because we actually in part need anger.
Yeah.
It's aggression, which we don't really particularly need. And because a lot of times we're actually not turning that onto anybody else other than ourselves. So I see, kids who self-harm, and that fundamentally is a form of aggression and violence turned inward. The connection there is to a whole range of inflammatory process through the elevations of cortisol in the system.
Yes.
So in a psychological or metaphysical sense, releasing those, working with those emotions reduces that need for the body to go into this overdrive. Use the word trauma before. And, often we're traumatizing ourselves through our neglect.
Yeah. Yes. I think on that note, I talk about in my book, when we're overthinking things, if we're in the drama of the past, shaming and blaming, or if I just got rid of my ex or my boss, then my life would be good. All that sort of talk. It just really puts it just is internalizing and bringing you down, and as you said, causing that cortisol to rise, and it's not good for our health.
No, at all, including brain health. We're looking at statistics at the moment with dementia, Alzheimer's, and a whole range of sort of neurologically related diseases are actually brought back to inflammatory processes.
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, so I just think the inflammatory processes that are sort of going on, if we're sort of shaming, blaming in the past, or fatalizing about the fearful future that hasn't happened. So the only way we can actually help ourselves heal and to stop all those not so good processes within our bodies is to come back into the now when we feel those thoughts, because they're not helpful to our health. And So just acknowledge that well, if they're a future thought, they haven't, until they actually happen, they're just concocted. And if they're in the past, well, it's spilt milk, isn't it? It's like,
it's
well,
done and dusted.
what can you do about it? So
so
that's what I found in my journey. I just kept coming back and having people around me that brought me up rather than pulled me down. Yeah.
Just like the other thought that I had as we were talking earlier was, you're talking about self-love in the book. I work, because it's boys and men, I work with the idea of creating a safe and secure and caring, compassionate relationship with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting when I first started moving into making that a process within therapy, how much of a buy-in I got, because it helped me to use like the whole attachment stuff. Because a lot of the guys, especially sort of 18 onwards, and the internet can be a wonderful thing on one hand, but absolutely disastrous on another. But a lot of them were up to speed with attachment styles. They'd often come in and they go, oh, I'm either anxious in my relationships, or I'm avoidant, or whatever. And I'd check in with them and go, have you thought about that might be a reflection of your relationship with yourself? And it'd be like the light bulb just went on.
Yes, until we can get the relationship with ourselves right, the relationship with others is not going to be right.
No,
and that's not many people like to hear that, because they, it takes a brave person to say, okay, well, maybe all the things not going right in my life may have something to do with how I am and what my choices and what I'm actually doing. And it takes a bit of courage, I tell you. It takes a bit of courage to actually
absolutely.
go to own it, to say, okay, well, all this shit in my life, it may not be everyone else's. It could be to do with what I could do better. And just the choice points of, am I choosing things that help me, or am I choosing things that hurt me? If things aren't going right, should I go left? As my father used to say, go left,
I like that.
Go left.
The question I often pose to the boys who are starting dating and the men who are having difficulties in their relationships, or they've come out of a relationship, I go, okay, before you do anything else, the question you need to ask yourself, are you match fit?
Are you what, sorry?
Look at match fit.
All right, match fit. Yes, exactly.
Sporting analogies goes a long way with my crowd, And so they go, well, what do you mean? And I go, well, imagine, you've got, the semi-finals coming up, and you've basically been sitting on the couch for the last 6 weeks. You reckon you're going to perform all that well on the field? And they go, no, you've got to stay in training. Okay, so what are you focusing on when you're training? Oh, well, my fitness and stuff. And I go, bingo. That's the starting point. How are you relating to yourself? What's your attitude about who you are and what you're about?
Yeah. And I think it's calling up the monkey mind. When you're finding yourself talking negatively, like I had this phrase for a while that, you've got the bus of life and you want to have the good guys in the front. You want to have, hope and, strength and all those good emotions, peace at the front of the bus. But the baddies, the ones that, they can come for the ride of life, but they don't have to be leading your life. They don't have to be driving the bus. And so just recognizing that making choices out of fear and reacting, like with anger can, as you touched on, Gunter, anger is I think a superhero. All our emotions are superheroes because they lead us, they keep us on track, they keep us on the yellow brick road. And if we listen to our emotions, we can go, okay, I'm really angry with X. Okay, that's the first point. Well, if you're angry with them, what can you do? You can have a big, punch up, and the energies just will blow out. You'll have more negative energy. You'll feel worse. They'll feel worse.
Yeah.
Or you can stand back and go, okay, well, how could I rechannel this anger? Go for a run. Maybe go for a run, and then you've still got the anger there simmering. Maybe you could stand back and you could have a bit of an empowered conversation about how you feel, like what's not working working for me. Because then actually you feel like you've done something. You feel it's off your shoulders, if you've actually, because some people internalize and some people blow up, but neither are good. So it's the middle road.
No,
I think it's the middle road. We don't want to internalize our anger, and a lot of us are sort of been brought up, you shouldn't show your anger, you shouldn't show your fears, you shouldn't show your grief. But we know, as you touched on before, it's not good for our health. But then on the other angle, we don't want to blow up on, because that's not going to help. So the middle road, that's what I think with that.
Well, I think women particularly get the message not to, or even assert themselves. Often when they hold their ground with voice. People talk, oh, well, she's very noisy, or she's always got an opinion. And this isn't confined to men making those observations. I've seen women make those comments about other women. So, the capacity, I think, to speak your truth as a woman, and I'm not wanting to mansplain here, but, I'm just curious about your experience, is often curtailed. I mean, even from a child onwards, boys get very different messages about how to express or how to deal with things to girls.
Yeah. Well, I think, a lot of us women, around the world, we've often brought up to keep the peace and to carry on, to nurture those around us, to put ourselves last. But that program is not working. It doesn't work because, as I say in my book, unless, whether you're male or female, if we can't find ourselves, if we can't be in our authentic voice, which is our superpower, by the way, once we can step into being authentic, we can no longer be right or wrong, because we just are who we are. And that's when freedom starts to happen. That's when we're heard, because we're not trying to be something else that we're not. The minute we start working to, I'm actually a chartered accountant, but that wasn't really me, but I didn't know what was me, because I didn't even know what I needed or wanted even at school. I just knew that if I worked hard, the teachers would love me. If I worked hard, my parents would love me, and I continued on. So
I was really amused with your father's comment about commerce. It's a good thing to fall back on. And I went, that is such a traditional male observation. It completely bypasses well, what are you about? And I mean, obviously reading your book with the art and the poetry in it, there must have always been the creative in you.
Yes, I think that I actually, Gunter, I'll go one step further. There's the creative in everyone. And I really, really, truly believe that once we can tap into our full self, then everyone can be creative, because it's actually just going, I don't care what art teacher says, my art teacher said, I've given up on you if you won't listen to me. I went into 10 classes, and now I don't go to any more classes, because I just go into what I feel and what I want to do. And it's like kids. We do that as a child. We've lost that knack of actually going into not caring, as long as we're having fun. The times that we will climb a tree or paint with our hands. Masterpieces are created that way, rather than thinking about what other people want. It's just
it's that and the perfectionism. I do quite a lot of work with writers, with writer's block, and musicians who are struggling, and painters. And when they get stuck, it's always the same thing: is they've got some arbitrary benchmark that they feel they need to go for. And the thing that I always put to them is just play with this. Forget about practicing, the perfection of the rhythm or whatever. Just ad lib it, shake it up. Don't if it's painting, throw paint on the canvas. Don't sit there and
Yes, well, I go one step further, and I say, like, say you're playing a guitar and or a piano, more like it, and you're doing all your scales and it's all very boring. I say to them, I say to them, get ready with your phone, hit the recorder button, and just push out a tune, and don't care about what you think or what anyone thinks, and just go with it. And I'll tell you, that's when the tunes worth recording come into play, because you're not really you're having fun, just relaxed, you're chilled, and
it's going into that state of flow where judgment doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, which is what happened to me on the Jetstar flight just last week.
You shared that story when we spoke on the phone. I love it if you shared that story with the audience that we've got with us.
Okay, it was quite a funny experience. I had been away. I'd been up in Airlie Beach in the Whitsundays, and I must admit, I have been a perfectionist, an eldest child, and I'm just always going, what can I do now? There must be something else I can do, and what can I do well? And, being productive is just sort of drummed into me from a very early age. And so when I hopped on the plane, I thought, this is a strange flight, because there was no one in front of me in the row front of me, and there's no one behind me. I don't know what was on, but anyway, I did a quick meditation, and then I fell asleep. And I woke up, and it was I got my phone out, which I often do, and then I just started writing. And what I ended up writing was the kids version of Free and First in the plane, and it was like because I'd had that time to stop. That time to stop and go, okay, well, I can't do anything. I'm stuck on a plane. So I think I ordered the cheese and biscuits, and I just sat back, nicely rested, and just threw the book into the notes in my phone. And you hear about that all the time. People will have a brilliant idea in the shower, or when you're having a cold beer on the deck, or and they'll go, oh, I've got this idea. And it's just, we just have to get ourselves out of that hamster wheel, I think, Gunter. I think, whether it's the hamster wheel of going to work and the drudgery of looking after the kid, I shouldn't say drudgery of looking after the kids, but the routine, the solid routine. We get up in the morning and you do X, and then you go to bed and then you do it all over again. I think we need to shake it up a bit and and just 10 minutes of fun factor, whatever that looks like, 10 minutes.
Yeah. I agree completely. Unfortunately, the school system, in many respects, as well as within families, it perpetuates this idea of keeping busy. I mean, I work with a lot of boys who have been diagnosed with ADHD, and it's all about what you can output. Yet some of these kids are absolutely stunningly creative, but they lack confidence because, in a sense, they've been given the message that they're sort of broken. And so even the medications, I'm not saying that there isn't a place for medication, but even the medication is about how much you can do and how you can focus on what you're doing rather than actually allowing the person to introspect. In fact, stimulants tend to inhibit introspection. They make us really good at doing stuff, but not very good at getting in touch with what it is that we feel. And a lot of the boys that I've worked with have gone off their meds because their comment is, I'm like a zombie. I'm really good at doing stuff, but I don't know who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the risk. I think there's very much a place for medication, and like some people who get in a dark place. I'm
absolutely.
all for it. And actually, medication can actually help you feel into your feelings, because like if the well would be too deep if you didn't have that medication for many. So with the medication, they feel often in a safer place to explore how they're feeling in a safer environment with their medical practitioner. And so I'm all for medication, but I think in the long term, anything that blocks us from feeling. I'm actually trying, Gunter, I'm trying this experiment because I can't talk about blocking feelings without being off coffee. So I'm trying this experiment. I've put myself off coffee since May, and I'm not drinking coffee. So I'm thinking, well, because and it's an interesting one, because I think you definitely do get an upper with the coffee, and you can do more.
Oh, yeah.
You can do more. I know that I do a better workout if I've had my coffee before I go to the gym or go to yoga, and but I think I feel more in tune with me, and I think that's the power. I think when we can step into feeling how we feel, it's really the starting point to actually grabbing the best of what life has to offer by feeling what we feel, because then we can just set boundaries about what we're not going to. I feel X when you do that, so please,
absolutely,
don't do X.
Stop it.
Stop it. That toothpaste lid has to be put back on.
But again, a lot of people don't express themselves transparently or authentically because they're afraid of the consequences. They often anticipate the other person getting angry or enraged, and therefore we hold back. And a lot of times, I've done a lot of work with couples, and that sort of self-censorship is one of the causes for relationships to stagnate.
Yes, well, because if we're not feeling what we need and communicating to our partners, well, the walls are going up, and you'll be, that's unfortunately it happens so subtly, but you no longer, you start to not know and what your partner needs, or your child needs, or whoever it is in your life. That the more we sort of don't open up and go and be vulnerable with how we feel, well, then we can't step into what we need. We can't stand up for what matters, and then we're sort of jailing ourselves in, really, aren't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's not necessarily society that keeps us entrapped, but we do it ourselves. Elizabeth, I'm go on.
I was just going to say the school system, like I think it's important that with the schools, that they're encouraging kids to be kids, like I wasn't encouraged to do art and drama, but I think at least these days you can do art and drama and still go into a more an accounting, or if you choose, or banking or legal career. But at the time when I was going through school, you couldn't look at those subjects because it limited you with what you could do after school.
There's a form of social control. Do you think you might have broken through earlier had you been rebellious?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because the perfectionist of me said, well, why didn't I do this earlier? What? And to tell you the truth, I've pondered that question. I think I'm looking at the needs of the children saying this, but I thought it was good timing because the children weren't children. So I looked at it that we brought them up in together, but then,
I picked it up and I really appreciated that, Elizabeth. I mean, that to me makes logical sense.
Yes, but then on the flip of the coin, Gunter, I think that couples that stay together for the children, when the energy is not good, when there's the undercurrent of the blame, shame, the turmoil, let's call it, then it affects the children in a detrimental way. So, every relationship is different. Every family is different. But I think the more that parents, the male and the female, can role model expressing their feelings and talking about their feelings, it encourages it with the children, and that encourages them to stand up and talk about how they're feeling and what matters to them. And I think that's the key to freeing everyone.
And we certainly need, I don't believe in revolution, but I'm a strong believer in evolution. And part of making good men great is the idea that as men, we need to evolve past the constraints of, how we've been socialized into this stereotypical behavior that classifies us as men, being strong, stoic, being completely action oriented rather than being in touch with what we think and our values and our beliefs. A lot of men have very good values, but they often compromise themselves with it because of social pressure.
Yes, I think it's it's a bit in our programming. I think, Gunter, guys are sort of told, to stand up and not to show their feelings, and whether it's anger or grief. And women are sort of often told to be the nurturing one, to keep the house together, to, assist with keeping everyone happy, the peacekeeper rather than the peacemaker. I like the word peacemaker. I think I've moved from a peacekeeper and have been promoted to a peacemaker.
The difference being, I'm curious.
The difference being that peacekeepers, you just keep silent and carry on, sort of thing, and the walls start, developing, and you keep all your feelings to yourself. But peacemaker is when you actually step up and have that conversation, have that conscious conversation. And that's when it really is very powerful, not only for yourself, but for everyone involved. Because quite often there's oh, why didn't you talk to me about that earlier? We could have been doing that for 3 years ago.
Yep. And the moment you talked about the peacemaker, I went, yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I think too. To get there, it requires getting okay with conflict or the potential of conflict. And half the time, our worst fears are catastrophes, the catastrophic fantasies that we project. They're often not there.
Yeah, we've got good imaginations, haven't we? Some
Yeah,
of us.
but absolutely. But some of the time they just come back to bite us when we're not really present in ourselves. And so much of our society wants us to be in a state of sedation, unawareness.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I think, like Buddha, I don't think Buddha may be quoted in my book. The thoughts we become. So I think it's really important that we try and spend time thinking about positive things and bringing that into our lives rather than, I use the analogy, you go to the yoga class and you think, oh, I've done a good, I'm doing good, I'm lifting my mood, I've done my yoga. And then you go, and then you go to coffee, and then you talk about what you can shame and blame and all the dramas that you're going on with your life. And the dramas, more we energize the dramas, the more we get into the dramas, and the more we don't feel good. So it's a sort of, I think I can't really stress, but I just find that it's really important if the more we can stay with supportive people and in being mindful of what we do in our everyday life, then we don't tend to go as often into fatalizing about the future or the spilt milk of the past, regretting and the blame and shame and all that.
Yeah. Well, just aware of the time, Elizabeth, and we're almost at the end of our time together. I could talk to you for a few more hours, actually. I'm going to put this to you. How do you want to wrap this podcast? What do you think is still something that you want to pass on through this?
Well, I think I would like to say to your listeners that every day, if they could give themselves 10 minutes to do nothing.
That's real activism, Elizabeth. I like that.
I know, see, because already some people will be feeling really awkward hearing that because they go, well, what's that going to do?
Yeah, I get that almost every day from at least 2 or 3 people.
But if we take 10 minutes out just to feel how we are feeling, and then to go, okay, well, and to be kind, just to be kind to ourselves, because if we feel how we feel, we know what we need, but we don't often take that first step of feeling what we feel. And we can all set up our own self-watering system of self-love and self-nurturing. Well, then we'll start feeling good about ourselves, and then we can start pursuing life with joy,
and care and nurture for others in a much more whole way, in an authentic way.
Yeah, well, I think, you see, I've got this theory that if we look after ourselves first and get into the happy vibes, well, then our families, they get to surf that wave. They get to surf the mood. They get to surf that vibe. Whereas if we're always down in the drudgery, the shame, the blame, we're down there and we think of our kids, and we think of our families, we're pulling them down as well. So I think we really have a responsibility for ourselves first, to just lift up as much as we can by choosing, to just little steps, baby steps. It doesn't have to be big. Doesn't we just chew off a couple of things each day. That 10 minutes to do something makes you feel good is an important one, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like the use of the analogy with the wave. I mean, I've titled my book "Making Good Men Great: Surfing a New Masculinity," and part of the idea there is to embrace the change, even though it might be a bit scary. Write it out, because 9 times out of 10 we come out of the water going, "Wow, that was really good."
Yeah.
Rather than picking on what, like it was too big or too small or the board wasn't right. That's just noise.
Yeah. And also, I mean, another one I sort of use is being the leader of our life, because we make decisions about how we lead our life, and we want to be the master. We want to be the master of our minds, because our minds are just a data processing unit, and they're good, but it depends what you feed them. If you feed them junk, they'll spit out junk. So yeah, I think.
Well, that's wonderful. I've really had a good time talking with you, Elizabeth. I hope you share that feeling with me.
Yes, no, it was fun. No, we'll have to do it again at some stage, Gunter.
I was about to ask you if you'd be open to coming on again.
Well, yes. Well, I'd love to. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So unfortunately,
wonderful.
Unfortunately for today, we're out of time. So again, let me thank you, Elizabeth. It was a great chat. There was some really interesting insights. I've got a whole bunch of questions still. Some of them may not be appropriate for public consumption, but well, we all need, as you put it in the book, and I talk a lot about this, we need to have appropriate boundaries. I was getting a little bit concerned when you can sit next to a person in the bus and you come out of the bus and you know their whole life story. Now, in some ways, my wife always says, "Yeah, but you've got a sign written on your forehead that says talk to me." I've never been quite sure, who picks up on that how, but it's apparently there.
Yes, well, I love to talk too, Gunter, so I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, not at all. There can never be too much. We all have stories, and I think stories need to be shared. And I think, the indigenous nations have a good sense of that. And in the Western culture, we sort of lost it a bit, especially in the more intimate spaces of family and community. I mean, I asked some boys about, so what's your dad do? And they often go, oh, I think he's in real estate, or no, you don't know exactly what he does, and half the time they don't. And it's a bit, so what was your grandfather about? And again, often they haven't met their grandfather. So stories connect us.
Yeah.
And on that note, Elizabeth, thank you very much for coming on. It was lovely. And we will definitely have to do this again. So to all the listeners out there, remember elizabethjane.com.au. Please take a look at the book. And when's the free and first for kids coming out?
So yes, so the family of a koala family who are living sort of quite a boring life. His dad's busy in the treadmill in the hamster wheel with work, and everyone's in there.
Yeah.
And so that's coming out probably in about 3 months time, hopefully. So yes.
Oh, great! Not that far away.
Yes.
Excellent. Are you going to include a drop bear?
Pardon?
You know the drop bear. Do you know the drop bear story? The drop bears.
Oh yes.
I always tease my American friends and acquaintances with, Australia is a very, very dangerous place, but the most dangerous animal is the drop bear. And they go, and what's that? And I go, they're koalas with teeth and even bigger claws, and they just drop on you from the top of a tree. And
Oh,
I'm always
well,
amused when they go, really?
yes. Well, I've been drawing my koalas this morning, so I'll have to just check that they're not looking too vicious.
That's right. All right, Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Okay,
And
thank you. Have a
you're
wonderful
welcome.
day, Gunter.
You
Thank
too. You
Okay.
too. This is me signing off. Love to hear from you. And if you're interested, please check out my work on www.gunterswoboda.com or www.goodmengreat.com.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit goodmengreat.com. For inquiries regarding broadcast topics or appearing on the show, email Miranda@noirtainment.com. That's Miranda at NOIRTAINMENT.com.